By the time I understood what they had done, I was already too weak to climb the stairs by myself. I trusted them. I took those pills every day. But something felt wrong, and it kept getting worse. My name is Harold Whitaker, and I have lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for most of my 76 years. I buried my wife, Elaine, 4 winters ago, and after that my little brick house got quiet, in a way I still cannot explain. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that makes the refrigerator sound like company. My son Daniel started coming by more after Elaine passed. At first, I was grateful. He fixed the loose porch rail. His wife, Marcy, brought casseroles. My granddaughter Lily would sit with me in the den and ask about old pictures. For a while, I thought grief had pulled us closer. Then my heart trouble got worse. Nothing dramatic. Just pills, appointments, blood pressure cuffs, and doctors telling me to take things slow. Daniel said it was too much for me to manage alone. Marcy bought me a plastic pill organizer, the kind with little doors for every day of the week. She filled it every Sunday at my kitchen table while Daniel sorted my mail. "You just take what's in the box, Dad," he said. "Don't overthink it." I wanted to believe that was love, but by March, I started feeling strange. Dizzy in the mornings, heavy in the legs. My hands trembled so bad I spilled coffee on my shirt twice in 1 week. I forgot the name of my neighbor's dog, a dog I had known for 9 years. Once, I woke up in my recliner at 3 in the afternoon with the television off, and no memory of sitting down. When I told Daniel, he frowned like I had inconvenienced him. "You're getting older, Dad," he said. "This is why we worry." Marcy touched my shoulder and gave me that soft voice people use when they have already decided you are not all there. "Maybe it's time we talk about more help." More help meant strangers in my house. Then it meant assisted living brochures left beside my coffee cup. Then it meant Daniel asking where I kept the deed to the house. I said, "Why would you need that?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just trying to keep your affairs in order." That night, after they left, I sat alone at the kitchen table and stared at my pill box. Every little compartment was filled neat and careful. Too neat, maybe. I could not shake the feeling that something in my own house had turned against me. So I did something I had not done in months. I took the Monday pills out of the box and hid them in an old tobacco tin in the garage. The next morning, I didn't take the pills. I sat in my kitchen with a cup of black coffee, waiting, listening to my own body like a man waiting for a storm that may or may not come. My hands were steady. Not perfect, but better. My head felt clearer too, like a fog had lifted just enough for me to notice it had been there. I told myself it was coincidence. By noon, I was still upright. No dizziness, no sudden need to sit down. I even walked out to the mailbox without holding the railing. That hadn't happened in weeks. I stood there on the driveway longer than I needed to, looking at my hands, turning them over slowly. There was a tight feeling in my chest, not pain, something else. Something like doubt, finally waking up. When Daniel came by that afternoon, I didn't say anything at first. I just watched him. He walked in like he always did, no knocking, keys already in his hand. Marcy followed with a grocery bag and that same careful smile. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. "Fine," I said. "Too fine, maybe." Daniel glanced at the pill organizer on the counter. His eyes stopped there just a second too long. "You take your morning meds?" I nodded. It was the first lie I told my own son. He seemed to relax after that, just a little. Not relief, more like confirmation. That sat wrong with me. We ate in the kitchen. They talked about bills, about schedules, about things that somehow always circled back to me not being able to manage on my own much longer. I listened, quiet, like an old man who had already agreed. But I hadn't. After dinner, Marcy reached for the pillbox. "I'll get tomorrow ready," she said. My stomach tightened. She opened each compartment, one by one, moving with a kind of practiced ease. Too practiced, like she had done this more times than I could remember. I leaned forward slightly. "What's that one?" I asked, pointing to a small white tablet. She didn't hesitate. "Blood pressure. And that? Heart rhythm. And that little blue one?" She paused, just for a second, but I saw it. "That's to help you rest," she said. I frowned. "Doctor never gave me anything blue." Daniel cut in quick. "They adjusted things last visit, Dad. You don't remember?" I held his gaze. I think I would remember that. The room went quiet. Marcy closed the pillbox gently, like the conversation itself needed to be shut. "You've had a lot on your mind," she said softly. "It's normal to forget things." Normal. That word landed heavy. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded slowly and leaned back in my chair. But something inside me, something old and stubborn, finally sat up straight. That night, after they left, I went out to the garage again. I opened the tobacco tin. The pills from that morning were still there, untouched. I stared at them for a long time. Then I did something that made my hands shake worse than any illness ever had. I took one of each and lined them up on the workbench under the light. Different shapes, different colors. Too many. Far more than I remembered being prescribed. And right then, standing alone in that cold garage, I realized something that made my stomach turn. I didn't know what I had been putting into my body. And worse than that, I didn't know how long it had been happening. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing those pills lined up under the garage light. White, blue, two different yellows. One of them chipped like it had been cut in half. I stood there long enough for the cold to settle into my bones, trying to match them to anything I remembered from the pharmacy. Nothing felt certain. Around 3 a.m, I went back inside and sat at the kitchen table. Same spot where Marcy filled that box every Sunday. Same place I had thanked her for helping. I felt foolish, and something worse than foolish. I felt handled. The next morning, I made a decision I didn't say out loud. I wasn't taking a single pill. Not until I knew exactly what they were. By noon, the difference was undeniable. My head stayed clear. No drifting, no blank spots. I walked from the kitchen to the backyard, without needing to steady myself. I even bent down to pull a weed from the edge of the patio, something I hadn't trusted my balance to do in weeks. It wasn't a miracle, but it wasn't decline either. And that scared me more than anything, because if I wasn't getting worse, then something else had to explain why I felt like I was. Daniel showed up earlier than usual that afternoon. Alone this time. No Marcy, no groceries, no polite smile to soften things. He walked in fast, eyes already searching. "You didn't answer your phone," he said. "I was outside," I told him. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. His eyes went straight to the pill organizer again. Always that box. "You take your meds?" he asked. There it was again. Not, "How are you?" Not, You okay? Just that. I leaned back in my chair. I'm feeling better today. He didn't like that answer. That's not what I asked. I let the silence sit between us for a moment. Then I said it plain. I didn't take them. His face changed. It was quick, but I saw it. Not concern, not fear for me, something sharper. Dad, you can't just skip medication like that, he said, stepping closer. That's dangerous. Is it? I asked. Yes, it is. I feel better. That doesn't mean anything. It means something to me. His jaw tightened. He ran a hand through his hair the way he used to when he was a teenager, trying not to lose his temper. You don't understand how this works, he said. These are prescribed for a reason. Then tell me what they are. I just did. No, I said, steady now. Tell me exactly what each one is. He hesitated, just like Marcy had. It was small, but it landed heavy. I don't have the list memorized, he said, but you're the one giving them to me. I'm helping manage them. Managing what exactly? The room went still. For a moment I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Not confusion. Calculation. Then he exhaled slow and softened his voice again. Dad, this is what I mean. You're getting confused. That's why we're stepping in. There it was. Not an answer. A conclusion. I stood up slowly from the table. My knees held steady under me. Stronger than they had any right to be, according to them. I want to see the prescriptions, I said. You don't need to worry about that. It's my body, and we're trying to keep you safe. Safe from what? He didn't answer that. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice like he didn't want the walls to hear. Look, we've been talking, he said, about what's best for you long term. We? Me and Marcy. I nodded slowly. Of course. He glanced toward the hallway, then back at me. There's a place not far from here, he said. Good staff. Medical supervision. You wouldn't have to worry about any of this. I let out a quiet breath. You mean I wouldn't have to ask questions? That's not fair. No, I said, meeting his eyes. What's not fair is me sitting in my own house, not knowing what I'm being given, while you decide where I belong. His expression hardened now. The softness was gone. You're not in a position to make these decisions anymore, he said. That landed heavier than anything else. Not loud, not shouted, just decided. I felt something shift inside me then. Something final, like a door closing that I hadn't even realized was still open. I nodded once. All right, I said quietly. He seemed relieved. Too relieved. Good, he said. We'll figure this out together. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked past him, out to the garage again, and closed the door behind me. The pills were still lined up on the workbench. But this time, I didn't just look at them. I counted them. Then I went back inside, grabbed the pill box from the kitchen, and realized something that made my chest go cold. The compartments for the past 3 days were already empty. I stood there in the kitchen holding that plastic pill box like it might explain itself if I just waited long enough. 3 days, empty, but I hadn't taken them. Not yesterday, not the day before, not today. My fingers tightened around the edges until the plastic creaked. I tried to think it through slow, steady, the way I used to balance books back when numbers still made sense. If I didn't take them, then someone else had opened that box. Someone else had decided those pills were gone, and there were only 2 people who came into my house like that. I set the box down carefully and looked around my kitchen. Same table, same chair, same window over the sink. Nothing out of place. And yet everything felt wrong now. Like I had been living in a version of my own home that wasn't fully mine anymore. That afternoon, I didn't wait for Daniel. I went to the bedroom, pulled on a clean shirt, and drove myself to the pharmacy. It took more effort than it should have. My hands still weren't perfect, and the sunlight felt sharper than usual, but I made it. Slow, careful, but clear. Inside, the place smelled the same as always. Clean and a little too bright. A young woman behind the counter smiled at me like I was somebody's grandfather who needed help finding the right aisle. "Can I help you, sir?" "Yes," I said. "I need a list of my prescriptions." She asked for my name, my birthday, tapped at her computer, then frowned just slightly. "Just a moment," she said and stepped into the back. I stood there, heart beating harder than it had all morning. When she came back, there was a man with her. Older. Glasses. The kind of face that didn't rush to conclusions. "Mr. Whitaker," he said. "That's right." He held a paper in his hand but didn't give it to me right away. "Can you tell me which medications you believe you're currently taking?" I hesitated. "That's what I'm trying to find out." He studied me for a moment, then handed me the printout. I looked down. 2 names I recognized. Blood pressure, heart rhythm. That was it. 2. I swallowed and looked back up at him. "There should be more," I said. "At least 6, maybe 7. He shook his head slowly. "These are the only active prescriptions we have on file for you." A quiet started in my ears, like the world had pulled back a few steps. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes, sir." I held the paper in my hands and felt something inside me settle into a hard, cold place. "Has anyone else picked these up for me?" I asked. He nodded. "Your son, Daniel Whitaker. He's listed as an authorized pickup." Of course he was. I folded the paper carefully, like it was something fragile. "Thank you," I said. I walked out slower than I had walked in, but not because I was weak, because I was thinking. By the time I got back to the house, my hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. Too steady. Daniel was already there when I pulled into the driveway. He stepped out onto the porch before I even got to the door. "Where were you?" he asked. "Out," I said. His eyes dropped to my hands, then to the car, then back to my face. "You shouldn't be driving alone. I've been doing it for 50 years. That's not the point." "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." I walked past him into the house. He followed close behind. "What's going on?" he pressed. "You've been acting strange all day." I set the folded paper on the kitchen table. "Explain this," I said. He looked at it, didn't pick it up. "What is it?" "My prescriptions." He didn't move. "There are 2, I said. "Just 2. Silence. "You want to tell me about the rest?" I asked. His jaw tightened again. That same look from before, only deeper now. "Dad?" "No," I said, sharper than I meant to. "Don't dad me. Tell me what I've been taking." He glanced toward the door, like he was checking whether Marcy might walk in and handle this for him. She wasn't there. It was just us now. "I was trying to help you," he said finally. "With what?" I asked. "With everything," he snapped. "You were getting worse, forgetting things, losing track. You couldn't manage your own care." "I wasn't getting worse," I said, my voice low. "I was getting drugged." The word hung there, heavy, ugly. He didn't deny it. That was the part that chilled me most. He just looked at me, like I had finally caught up to something he had already accepted. "You don't understand," he said. And right then, I knew whatever he said next was going to change everything. He didn't sit down. He didn't raise his voice either. Daniel just stood there across from me in the same kitchen where I had raised him, where I had packed his lunches, checked his homework, paid for his college, and he looked at me like I was a problem that had finally figured out its own name. "You don't understand," he said again, slower this time. This wasn't random. I felt my chest tighten, but not from my heart. "Then explain it," I said. He ran a hand over his face and let out a long breath. "We had to show a pattern," he said. The words didn't land right away. "A pattern of what?" "Decline," he said. That word, clinical, clean, like it belonged in a report, not in my kitchen. I stared at him. "You're telling me you made me look sick?" He shook his head, quick. "No, you were already slipping. I was grieving," I cut in. "That's not the same thing." He didn't argue that. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice like this was something reasonable now that it was out in the open. "Look, the doctors, the evaluations, they need evidence, not just one bad day. Consistency, confusion, instability. That's how this works." My hands went cold. "So you helped it along," I said. Silence. That was all the answer I needed. I felt something break loose inside me then. Not loud, not explosive. Just a quiet, final kind of understanding. "How long?" I asked. He hesitated. "A few months." A few months. I thought about the mornings I couldn't stand straight. The afternoons I lost. The way I started doubting my own thoughts. My own memory. "You made me question my own mind," I said. His voice hardened now, defensive. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" "From yourself," he snapped. "From this house? From being alone? From making decisions you're not capable of anymore?" "I drove to the pharmacy today," I said. He stopped. "I asked questions. I got answers. I remembered every step of the way." I took a slow breath. "That doesn't sound like a man who's gone." He looked away. "That's not the point." "It is the only point." He shook his head, frustrated now. "You think this is about pills?" he said. "It's bigger than that. This is about what happens next. Long-term care, legal authority, making sure things don't fall apart." "Things," I repeated quietly. He didn't correct it. "Not my life. Not me. Things." I leaned forward slightly, my voice low and steady. "You wanted control." His eyes snapped back to mine. "I wanted stability." "You wanted signatures," I said. That hit. He didn't speak. I went on. "The house, the accounts, decisions. You said it yourself. I'm not in a position to decide anymore." I paused. "So you made sure that became true?" "That's not..." "It is." The room felt smaller now, tighter. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he said something that settled everything in a way I won't ever forget. "You were going to lose it anyway," he said. "This just sped things up." There it was. Not concern, not confusion. Just calculation, said out loud. I nodded slowly. "I see," I said. And I did. Every casserole, every Sunday visit, every careful hand on my shoulder, every pill. I straightened up, feeling something return to me that I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. "You need to leave," I said. He blinked. "What? You heard me." "Dad, don't be ridiculous. Leave." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Something in it must have changed, because for the first time since this all started, he hesitated, really hesitated. "This is my house," I added quietly. That word, hung between us like a line drawn in the dirt. He looked at me for a long moment, searching for weakness, confusion, anything he could use to push back in. He didn't find it. Not this time. His jaw tightened one last time. "This isn't over," he said. I didn't answer. I just stood there, steady on my feet, watching him grab his keys and walk out the door. The house went quiet again after that. But it was a different kind of quiet. Not empty, not uncertain, clear. I stood there for a long time, then slowly walked to the sink, turned on the light, and opened the cabinet where the pillbox sat. I stared at it for a moment, then picked it up and dumped every last pill into the trash. But as they hit the bottom of that bag, a thought came over me, sharp and sudden. Because if Daniel had been doing this for months, then someone else had been helping him. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the trash like it might answer me. The pills were gone now, scattered under coffee grounds and old receipts. But the feeling didn't go with them. Someone else had been in this house, not just visiting, helping. The thought settled slow, heavy, unavoidable. Marcy. I leaned both hands on the counter and closed my eyes for a moment. I could see it clear now. The way she moved around my kitchen like she belonged there. The way she answered questions too smoothly. The way she always stood just a little closer to the pillbox than anyone else. I let out a long breath. Then I heard something. Soft. A shift. Behind me. I turned. She was standing in the doorway. I hadn't heard the car. Hadn't heard the door. Just there. "You shouldn't have done that," she said quietly, looking at the trash. My chest tightened, but I didn't step back. "How long?" I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. She walked into the kitchen slowly, calm, almost careful. "Daniel was struggling," she said. "He didn't know how to handle things. So you stepped in. I made sure things stayed on track." "By drugging me?" Her expression didn't change. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. She glanced toward the window, then back at me. "You were getting harder to manage," she said. "You questioned everything. You resisted help. That doesn't work when we're trying to secure your future." "My future," I repeated. "Yes. Not your future. My future, like I wasn't even in it." I felt the anger rise, but it came out quiet. "You were in my house," I said. "In my kitchen, touching things that go into my body. We were taking care of you." "No," I said. "You were taking control." She took another step closer. "You don't understand how fast things can fall apart at your age," she said. "One fall. One mistake. Then everything is chaos. We were preventing that." I shook my head slowly. "You created it." For the first time, just a flicker. Something in her face tightened. Then it was gone. "This could still be handled cleanly," she said. "We can fix this." I let out a short breath. "Fix what?" "The situation," she said. "You're upset right now. That's understandable. But decisions don't need to be made tonight." I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw it. Not worry. Not guilt. Just containment. Like I was something that had slipped out of place. "I already made one," I said. She didn't respond. "I told Daniel to leave," I continued. "Now I'm telling you." The room went very still. "You're not thinking clearly," she said. "I've never been clearer." She stood there for a long moment, measuring, deciding. Then her voice dropped just slightly. "If you push this," she said, It's going to get complicated. There was something underneath that now, something harder. I felt it, but I didn't move. Is that a warning? I asked. It's reality. Silence. The kind that presses on your ears. Then she turned, slowly, and walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle, without looking back. You should take your medication tomorrow, she said. Skipping like this can make things worse. Then she left, just like that. The door closed, soft, final. I stood there alone in the kitchen again, but nothing about it felt the same. Not the walls, not the air, not even the floor under my feet. I walked slowly to the front door, locked it, then checked the back. Then I turned off the lights and sat down in the dark. No pills, no voices, no one telling me what I was supposed to feel. Just silence. Real silence. I sat there a long time, listening to my own breathing. Steady. Clear. Until a thought came into my mind. Quiet. Sharp. And impossible to ignore. Because if they were willing to do this, in my own home, right in front of me, then there was only one question left. What had they already put in place that I hadn't found yet?